Qatiake hoekwa.
Chatsu achtu ike gonalchish. Let's watch Kohanti while we wait for everyone to come in. I'll put it up.
Yatak kunach kusi art, weku udich awe hastu kusti. Kunach nik klein, ka kat uagut, kagya nik jidch, kut kushuahi. Yashat katsku sahan yutu wasak, away to in ark, the cut has away, do nakas cow the eat. Yashat katsku sahan. Kunach tushe an, katlets ak, kainach awe kudzeti. Yaka shada hanich, de tutla ani, a dach ya wada, kawasa ka ich de shi, a jawe a tut a jiwatan awe has to seek chunich nach satit. Yaka shada hani to seek. Sahan ten bugu, yahin chayach de du toaw sagu, yahin yikdachsa atihin, ke akawa kwaji, ke adana jindach, sheshe itanach jindach, ye ayaw sakha sahan. Ke ni sakit, we hin yegi, we akutut lasayi ye, shakas, ye kinug. Gaut kuwaha with the shy with ka the honey to seek. Shanash hika our sha an yadich sati hoch. Heshi wuyat a itach wush has with the shy. Shishik at qadne has to ka de ju the good. One is away. Du narchi, ja, schöne Hech. Je jau du zakha. Hech ish heet, dat. A joey ishatch, a tu gate would the git. We heen, yegi. Du shat one yak, uwa gut, du yetki teen. Hech du toa ushka, we shishak at, has du chug ye uti. Nashki deich sati, Ja'an awayak at, we kashada honey jeet our tea, we kuhanti sahan akashayit. Ja'dasa tlech atchtush ye asnech, heshi wuyati awe, du tuwa dach, du chuch katu in aug, supushinach. Ayuk. The cut yak at to ji yan cow the ga, yak at ha, kat na at, ka said, ka keys. We ka shed the honey, the kuni nach away to eat hus, sahan awa has to clark sati, dach nach yati, has the nach, katach nach yati, qua, kanashki der hasati, katlesh has ushait. Je dacht nach lenalchi je du ik has, du gant has geaten awe, gedeen has du daad jou se tak, kadak je us neich, ya yiki du sikri ya qnashkite tlelkedain hastu dat ya wustak sahan ye ya waqa hellach tuwa ushka we qnashkite a ka khas a khai we yiki sik qnashkite qu atr ashyehi hellkedain qati Take a talk I tik Yakudach una awe dukhana. Aka awe tlech usnach tsuknashkidech wusati wegao. Ye would do a G, hesh ushait achawe wiknashkide du ik has tlech tush an has to in achawe ye wune. Kushtayach wasashanach weka has to ya ayakune.
Alright, welcome in you guys. That was Kuhanti. It's a collaboration between Lingit and Haida and Gold Belt Heritage Foundation. You saw on the screen the contributors were Shakshani and Kachon Ish, Marge Stetson, and George Davis. But yeah, I just wanted to play the whole thing as folks were coming into class. Today we're going to focus on our translation. So as you could see, it's already been transcribed, meaning they already wrote down what was said in Lingit. And so that takes one step away from us. Now all we have to do is translate it. Before we jump in, were there any immediate thoughts or comments, questions? All right, let me know. Just pipe up if something crosses your mind. Otherwise, we'll jump right into it. So, like I said, today we're going to do Kuhanti. We'll talk about some grammar concepts, coming and going, as well as a little bit about weather and seasons. And then, so our remaining classes, we just have 3 left. So today is June 27th. And then after today, we have 2 more classes. Our classes next week will be on Monday and Wednesday. So same Zoom link, and it'll still be same time. Only it'll be Monday and Wednesday since Thursday is a holiday. Little bit about Kuhanti. The title Kuhanti means orphan. And I'm going to set you guys up with the materials that we'll be using so that you have them on your computer. And then I'll probably ask you to help me look things up, but I'll give you an overview of the reference material first. So I'm going to put in the chat the link to this video. So that you can study it outside of class. The other thing I'm going to put in the chat is the book. I'm excited to share this book with you guys. Rene sent it to me a long time ago, and just recently I was looking through it and I realized he made my life a lot easier for the way that I want to be teaching stories. He did a lot of that groundwork when he published this book, so I'm going to put it in the chat. It's 3 megabytes. Take up some space, but I'm putting it in the chat. Let me know if you can open it up. Did that pop up for you guys? Okay, good. So you can go ahead and open that up when you're ready, but in the meantime, I'll also be showing it on my screen. And I'm just going to give you an overview of this book. So let's jump to the top. Zoom in. Where is it? So this book is called Lingit Class, and it means Lingit stories for our children. So let's practice the name of the title. Go ahead and unmute your mics. And the first 2 words are Lingit means Lingit stories. So repeat this after me. Lingit Shkalnigi.
Engage, Shniki,
Good. And then the last 3 words mean our children for. This yes word means for, and it means for our children. So repeat after me. Hayatki yes.
yes,
Okay. So that's the name of this book, published by Gold Belt Heritage Foundation. And what I really like about it, there's a good speech by Ish, Herman Davis that you can review and just practice on your own time. But Rene went ahead and transcribed this speech by Ish. It's an encouragement speech, and then he also translated it here. So when you're studying outside of class, I highly, oh, you see your grandma? Okay, yeah, nice. I highly encourage you guys to do a couple things when you have a material like this where you have the Lingit and then the translation in English. Practice reading out loud to yourself and just take your time with it. Do like 1 or 2 lines. If you have 10 minutes, just see how far you can get. Don't worry about the meaning. But just to advance your reading abilities and your pronunciation, this is a great way to practice on your own. And then you can identify, see if you can pick out of the translation which word means what. Great starting point if you're a beginner. You can still pull a lot out of a speech like this when you have it translated. Today I'm going to zoom down to our story. And so if you look on the left-hand side, I have all my bookmarks here. And there are a couple stories. There's Kohanti, as well as Yilka Kudatanka. We're going to focus on Kohanti. And it consists of a translation exercise. So you see we have our transcript in Lingit on the left. There's space for us to translate on the right. You can, and then the beautiful thing about this book is that the steps, the many, many steps I took you through yesterday for looking up words in the dictionary, scrolling through all of them, trying to find examples that relate to what you're looking for, and piecing things together, that's all been done for us in this book. And so it's going to make our lives a lot easier. So if you look here, you have your translation exercise, that's where we're at. There's also a compilation of all the common words from the story put together that we can practice translating. And then they're broken down by non-verbs and then also verbs. So if you're one of those people that goes, oh, I want to practice, I want to gain some familiarity with verbs, I'm going to practice all of the verbs that are in this story, you can. And you can see the gloss where they're broken down so that as you advance into that level of being able to pull apart a verb and identify its individual sounds and meanings, this will be helpful for you. The more useful part for our sake today is going to be in the glossary. And this is basically a compilation of all of the entries from the dictionary and from the verb resources as they appear in the story. So, again, when you're translating and transcribing, there's a lot of steps. I call it the research phase, where you're going through the whole dictionary and trying to piece meaning together based off the different examples you can pull from. Here, they're all here as they appear. So we have our non-verbs as well as our verbs. And so, for example, one of the first lines will have this word in it, to be cold, kusiat. Okay. So, in fact, while we're here, I'm going to tell you this one ahead of time because it's in our first section that we'll study today. And this might look kind of funny, like when you see the square root symbol in front of the word and then these dashes. It looks a little bit like a mathematical equation, but this is just how we organize the theme of a verb. If you look down in the examples, you have them in the different modes. And the word that we're going to see is this one, and it means the weather got cold. So I'm going to zoom in and you can repeat this word after me. Kusiat.
Kusiat.
Good. This W makes it something that's happened already. So the weather got cold. We're not talking about, if we take the W out and say kusiat, we're saying it's cold right now. But if we add that W in there, kusiat, we're saying it's something that happened. The weather got cold. Okay, so let's go to our slides. And so here are the names of the contributors. Let's practice their name. So Marge Dutson, her Lingit name, repeat after me. Shukshani.
Son.
And Gunalchish. And George Davis, name, repeat after me. Kahwan Ish.
Kakwanjish.
Yeah, these two were big mentors. I never had a chance to meet them, but I know they were big mentors to my teacher, Rene. And I study their words a lot when I was in his classes. So that was the book we just went through, Lingit Class, a workbook. So we're going to do this in steps. First thing, we watched the whole video without worrying too much about what we're seeing. It's just, it'll probably give you a big picture. The next step that I like to do when I'm engaging with recordings is to practice the pronunciation. So again, we're not going to worry too much about looking up each word, but what I want us to do is practice pronunciation. So we'll go from the book and then also the YouTube video. Today we'll just be focusing on the first minute. And let's read it from the book. Okay. First line, repeat after me. The first two words, actually. Yatak.
Yata.
Kunach kusiat.
Kunak. Kusiat.
And then these first two words. Weku'u.
Weku'u.
Wutikawa.
Utikawa.
Hastukusti.
Astukusti.
Okay. And again, we'll just read the next lines, just focusing on reading. Chunach ni kutlein.
Genacht niet meer.
Ka kat uagut.
Ka, dat is wel goed.
Ka yeni kujitch.
Ka je niet zien.
Kut kushuahich.
God kushuashi.
Good. Let's do a few more. The first two words. Ya shatkatku.
Ja, schat. Goed.
Sahan yudu wasak.
Dan je doet zaak.
Awadu in aug.
Alweer doe je nou.
Stakat hasawa.
Kat, hasawa.
Dunak has kaudikit.
Not how to eat.
Good. Good job. So I'm going to take us into the video now that we've practiced it, following my pronunciation. Now we'll copy René. And we're just going to focus on the first minute today. Oh, by the way, in this video, René also made the transcript, so that's how the subtitles are on, and you can follow along with, you can click to get straight to what line that you want to go to, which is pretty fun. Okay, we're going to start at the beginning. So I'll play that section and then we'll stop it and practice line by line.
Yatak kunach kusi art. Weku wutik away hastu kusti. Kunach nik klein. Ka kat uagut. Kagya nik jid. Kut kushuahi. Yashat katsku sahan yudu wasak. Away do in ank. The cut has away. Do nakas cow the eat. Yashat katsku sahan. Kunach tushe an. Katlets ak. Kainach away kudzati.
Okay, so let's do one line at a time. And keep your, oh yeah, Kaya, you have a question?
Could we listen to it slower?
Yeah, of course, good idea. So to listen to a video slower on YouTube, you go to this gear icon for the settings. And then you go in playback speed. Right now it's at normal, and I like to do it one step down at a time. And then if it's still too fast after that, we'll go down one more step from there. So here we go.
Hey, yo, hey, yeah.
Yatak kunach kusi art. Weku wutik away hastu kusti. Kunach nik klein. Ka kat uagut. Kagya nik jid. Kut kushuahi. Yashat katsku sahan yudu wasak. Away do in ank. The cut has away. Do nakas cow the eat. Yashat katsku sahan. Kunach tushe an. Katlets ak. Kainach away kudzati.
Anything that you were able to identify that time? Just for giggles, it's not required. Again, we're just focusing on pronunciation for this time. And then we'll get into our translation. Okay, so I'm gonna put it back to regular speed. And then I'll hit play and then I'll repeat after Khane and y'all can repeat after me.
Yatak kunach kusi art.
Yatak kunach kusi at.
Dag, Gunach,
Chutzi
Yatak kunach kusiat.
Okay.
Weku utik away hastu
Oops.
kusti.
Okay, I'm gonna scroll back. This is where it gets a little tricky. Okay, repeat after me. Weku utikawa.
Weku,
Beku.
Awe,
Ikawe.
He awe.
Ah,
Ik away hastu kusti.
hastukusti.
Hastu
Astu
kusti.
kusti.
Good.
Kunach nik plain ka cut gut.
Okay, I'm gonna do one chunk at a time. Kunach ni klein.
Gunach,
Kunach
Kunach
ni plain.
Ka cut gut.
Ka, Kat,
Kastu.
Kat ua gut.
Okay.
Ka cut gut. Kaya nik cheat. Kut kushuahi. Yes,
So we'll do this one. This will be our last one. Kayaniku.
Kaya ni.
Kayani.
kaya nik cheat. Kut kushuahi.
Jid kut kushuahi.
Jid,
Ji.
Kush,
Kushushi.
Good. Okay. Let's start our translation process just for those first couple lines. So we practiced our pronunciation. Now we're getting into our translation. I wrote them down here by short phrases, so it'll be a little bit easier for us to translate. First off, are there any phrases or words in this short phrase that you understand?
Gunach is very,
Yeah, thanks.
Kusiat is cold or was cold.
Yeah. The weather got cold.
Yatak that year.
Yeah, so tag would be this one, and then tag can be winter or year. So we'll say this winter. It could be this winter or this year. They're really the same thing if you think about them. Good. So now let's practice it, realizing that we understand all of the words in this phrase. Repeat after me off this top line. Yatak kunach kusiat.
Yatak,
Kunach
Gunach,
Chutzi
Good. So this winter, the weather got really cold. We could even do a text box beneath for our translation. This winter, the weather got really cold. Okay. Next line. Anything jump out at you guys so far that you recognize?
Dang, I feel like I should know all of these, but I totally can't.
That's okay. This is where it gets fun. So now we can look things up together, and they're gonna appear in our reference material just as they appear in the story, which is like so awesome. It's such a relief. So we have we're gonna go ahead and go into our workbook.
Hastu kusti would be their culture.
Yeah, their way of life or culture. Good memory. And then, so if we go into our glossary under Kohanti, we can search for it. So I'm going to open up my search bar with Command F. And I'm going to look up the first one, or maybe ku. So if we have ku, there's an entry here from the Kohanti glossary. It means people or community. Weku. So we is that, and ku'u is community. So we're going to translate it, that community, or that group of people. And then wutik, so we have a couple words here we're not sure of. Let's look up wutik. And this looks to me like a verb. But if we're not sure what it is, we can go into our book and just type it in the search bar. And hit enter. And look at that, it pops right up in our example. Wutik means it became difficult. So since we jumped right to the answer just by entering it in the search bar, now I'm going to look up at the top and see where it comes from. So it's under this entry in the verb section for the verb root ik, which means to freeze, to be hard or difficult. And then just reading through ik, hard or difficult, for something to be hard. Yatik, it's difficult. Touch utik, it's not difficult. Ke natik, it's becoming difficult. Utik, it became difficult. And let's actually, since we're starting to learn more about verbs, let's practice pronouncing each form. So first one, repeat after me for it's difficult. Yatik.
Yatik.
Good. It's not difficult. Tlesh utik.
Kleh utik.
Good. It's becoming difficult. Ke natik.
Kleh utik.
It became
Energy.
good. It became difficult. Wutik.
Utik.
Woody.
Tlesh wutik.
Kleh utik.
Left to G.
Okay. Ke kwatik.
Kleh kotik.
Plus E.
And last one. Tlesh ke kwatik.
Kleh kotik.
Plus plus E.
Good. So you can start to, over time, if you do that with every verb, you start to understand the differences between them. You start to build a pattern in your mind. But for now, we're just going to focus on the word we saw, wutik, and we're going to say it became difficult in our translation.
It was cool that part of that definition of the verb root was also frozen, and they're talking about the winter time, and so the verb kind of describes like possibly something difficult, but also the frozen aspect.
Oh yeah, I didn't even think about it that way.
Great verb.
Yeah. Yeah, I tend to think about it as like the physical state of things. For if something freezes, it gets physically hard. But then it also has that meaning, like you said, of things becoming difficult, which in the winter they do. Cool. Interesting. And then one of you recognized Hastikusti, but if we hadn't, and we wanted to look it up, you can just, again, enter it into our search. I'm gonna zoom out so we can get our big whole page in here and paste it in. So Kusti, I want to search Kusti. And this is just so nice to have the words that we're looking for show up in the context that we want that matches our source. I just think this book is so brilliant. So we have the word for kuste means life. So repeat this word after me, this shortened one, kuste.
Kuste.
Okay. Now when you make it possessive, like this is life or a way of living, now we're saying their way of life, so it belongs to them. It's the way that they live. Now we have to add this suffix, and when you do that, this is short high I becomes long, and you add e. So let's do hastu means their, plural, belonging to them, and the whole phrase. Repeat after me: hastukusti.
Hastikusti.
Hastikusti.
Okay. Ah, okay. So kusti is life. Their way of life is hastukusti. And then if you were curious about the other entries, it appears again. You can just find all the places it shows up. So now that we identified that community, it became difficult, their way of life. How would you say this in English if you were telling the story in English?
It was winter and things got difficult, and their way of life became difficult.
Yeah, there you go. So we have all of these. Their way of life became difficult. And then we also want to squeeze this meaning in there, that community. And then I see one in the chat. Their way of life became difficult in that community. Good job. So now we're adding in this piece. This is
community. Yeah. In that community, their way of life became difficult.
Yeah, exactly. You could even put it in the beginning, like you said. In that community, their way of life became difficult. Yeah, I like it. So this is where it becomes an art form where we're making decisions on how to interpret it. We know literally what each word means, and then we're choosing how to say it in English. So this is the art of translation. So going back to our first line, so the first line was this winter, the weather got really cold. And then in the second line, in that community, their way of life became difficult. So we're piecing together the story that's being told, and we're looking at the way that we're interpreting the story as the lines string together. And so again, let's do the pronunciation. Line 1, repeat after me. Ya ta kunach kusiat.
Yatak kunach usiat.
And then I'll do the whole line. Just do your best. Weku wutik wehastukusti.
Wehu.
Ik
Away.
away
Astu
stu kusti.
kusti.
Good, nice. You guys sound good. So this winter, the weather got really cold. In that community, their way of life became difficult. right, so now I'm gonna start the video from the beginning so we can read along now, understanding it, piece it together with the pictures, and I'll continue it through this next line. We'll work on the next line.
Ak qunach qusi art. Wequ wutika we hastu qusti. Qunach neek plain. Ka cut uagut. Kaya neek cheech. Kut kushuahi. Yashat katsku sahan yutu wasak. Away to in ark. The cut has away. Do nakhas cow the eat.
Okay, something sad happened. We're not sure what yet. Any guesses?
It's kind of the way I feel all winter long.
I know. That's what's sad. She lives in Alaska. No. All right, so let's go line by line. Any words we identify here?
Kunach is very or really.
Yeah, good. Anything else? No worries if not.
Plain, big.
Yeah, good. Plain is big. And I'll put a question mark for the whatever comes before that, so we know we need to look it up. And then looking at the next line, anything popping out at you here?
Unique.
And
Yep, ka is and then okay, watch what were you saying?
Unique was like I feel bad.
Yeah, bad. We'll look this one up. Let's start with this one. Tuwu yaniku means I'm sad, but the literal meaning, if we look it up in our resource, is sick. They are sick. And let's look at all the places that it appears. And then we have other meanings: sick, hurt, or painful. Here it is in our line from our story. Here it is in the list of verbs. And that's it. Okay. So we have sick. Sickness. They are sick. So yanik could mean they are sick or sickness. Let's put sick for now. And then let's go. So now we've looked through, identified all the ones that we knew right off the bat, and now we're gonna look them all up. So khnach we know is very. Nik plain. Oh, nik is sickness. Okay, so let's look up sickness. Nik. Nik. All right, that's it. What it is. So yanik is they are sick, and nik is sickness. And we'll enter this. So nik plain is big sickness. Let's see if by chance nik plain shows up as a phrase together. Nik. No. And then I'm going to put nik plain. Okay, that just only appears in our story. So, looking ahead, we're going to need to find a way to interpret this term big sickness because that makes sense to me looking at it like, oh, there was a big illness that, you know, something happened. We'll see it. But maybe I wouldn't say big sickness if I was telling the story in English. So, I'm just thinking ahead about, okay, I'm going to need to find a way to interpret this. And then we have ka kat uagut. So this phrase, I'm going to look it up, starting with the whole thing just to see. And then otherwise I'm going to have to look up each part, and we can do that too. But I'm going to start with the whole thing and just see if it appears. Look, it only appears as the whole translation. So now I'm going to look up ka cut and see if that appears together. Ka cut. No. Okay, so now somehow I changed modes into. Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll start with uagut. And uagut means they went. So it comes from this verb root gut, which means to walk or go. And then we see all these different ways of saying go, don't go, they are going, they aren't going. But the way we see it is uagut, and it means they went. So I'm going to enter that in. And we'll have to piece it together with these other lines to get the meaning of what we're actually going for. Let me see. Ka cut means, I know what it means, so I'm trying to find a way to look it up. Ka cut uagut. Let's look up cut or ka. Let me just quickly search. So we do have in the glossary, this is from the other story, but I'm sure it appears in ours too. I'm gonna zoom in here. So we have this this term ka, and there's a hyphen in front of it, meaning you have to put something there. And when you say ka, you're talking about in, on, or on the surface on top of. So let me zoom in so we can see the whole entry. The horizontal surface of, on top of it. And then you'll see it in these different forms with these different suffix combinations. So yesterday or Tuesday, we talked about the terms dach and de. You can add those on to ka to mean from the top of or toward the top of. Nach, we talked about nach, meaning through the top of. So ka and nach are both suffixes, but we can combine them together to give more meaning. Through the top of something. And then cut, same thing. The T is the arrival, like arriving to, and then cut is arriving on. So we have cut and we have our whole phrase is ka cut, and the ka is people, right? So we'll do ka. I don't know if I want to go through all of these. Oops. If I can. Ka. Yeah, this makes sense in the context. So we have ka as part of ka shadin. Oh, nakke. If you look at the gloss, the ka part means persons. I would translate this as on, it went on people. And then if I was trying to think of how to translate that whole phrase, we have, any stabs at this? Very big sickness, it went on people. I see one in the chat. Very big disease went on people. Okay. Any others? I see your gears turning, so I'm gonna
Right. There's a lot of ways to do this, huh? This is a difficult one.
This is why I have so much appreciation for the Downhowers. Like, look at this whole big, look at this thick book of stories. And the Downhowers did what we're doing now for like books and books and books. It's a whole thing. Among others, they didn't do it alone. Okay, I like this one. A big sickness came upon the people. I like it. And this doesn't have to be set in stone. Maybe like next week we'll be reading through the Downhauer stories and we see something that's translated this exact phrase and we'll use theirs. So don't feel like it's set in stone. It's always a work in progress. Yeah, a very big sickness came upon the people. Oh yeah, thank you, a very big. Good. Okay, so we have this line. Repeat this line after me. The whole line. Kunach ni kutlein ka kat uwagut.
Kunach nich
Vandaag niet
kaka uwagot.
Okay, good. And oh my gosh, how is it 1 o'clock already? No! Okay, I know. Okay, one more line. We already identified ka for and, unique. So unique, we decided, or we learned, means they are sick. And then we have this jit, and so this is the part we're going to look up now. And this is a cool concept. So make this big and look up jit. So jit comes from the relational base G, and it refers to possession. And so let's read the entry. In the possession of, in Lingit, possession is a location and often appears with a relational suffix as shown below. So we're thinking about possession as being a place now in our heads. And then we can go from the possession of, toward the possession of, through the possession of, arriving at the possession. And so the way that we're seeing the phrase is jit. That's what we see in our book. And then it's a contraction of this longer form jitach. So when we see jit, we can think of that as being short for jitach, from the possession or given by. So I'm going to copy this into our translation. And it's not going to make a lot of sense at first. We have unique and jit. And unique means they are sick, and then jit is from the possession of or given by. So we're starting to build an idea of visuals in our head. Now we're going to go to the next line. So we need to look up both of these. I'm going to start with khushuahih. I'm going to go in our book. Khushuahih. Oh, okay. When you look up a verb, sometimes you just look up the last sound of it, the last syllable, which in this case is he. And like I said, Rene compiled this glossary for our sake of learning this particular story. So look at that. He actually put the theme that in the case we're hearing it in our glossary. We have our kut and then blank shuahih, blank being the person we're talking about. So kut kushuahih means to pass away or to die. For the object, often plural, to die off in a mass. And so this is our sad occurrence. We have they're all dying off, they all died off. And this is the most similar phrase, kut hus shuahih, only what we hear instead of hus is k. So k is the object meaning people, k. And so it means people died off. I'm gonna add this into our translation and then let you guys go. People died off. Kind of a sad note to end on. Sorry, guys. But we'll continue the story and see what happens next in our coming classes. And yeah, any questions before you go?
I think I'm really struck by why this story was chosen. And I was wondering about that before. And then just like the few lines here of like how the people died off from big sickness and times got really hard. And I'm thinking about that, how that applies to kind of the current state of the Tlingit language and our learning and our people. And like these are hard times and our, language bearers are passing away, like Ken Grant. And yeah, so I can kind of, I don't know, it seems really pertinent.
Okay, Gunachish. Thanks for sharing. Yeah, that's a constant part of language revitalization work is that you build relationships with people who speak and then at some point you lose them. None of us get to stay forever. And that's really hard. It's close to our hearts. Yeah. Gunachish for sharing. And there's a lesson in this story too. So as we next couple classes move through it, we'll continue learning. But thanks for your time. Good job today, you guys.